professor of English, Mark Dunphy. We're here at Cafe on the Square in downtown Columbia for
Right.
Lindsey Wilson Conversations. The way we do this is you get to enjoy the beverage of your choice, which
Well,
is a iced turtle mocha, and we're also going to talk about one of your favorite topics, which is your favorite novel, Moby Dick. When did you first read Moby Dick?
I read Moby Dick when I was 16 at Canterbury School in New Milford, Connecticut.
Did you like the novel the first time you read it?
Oh,
What
yeah,
was your
yeah,
reaction
yeah.
the
Blew
first
me
time?
away. Blew me away. And I've probably read it 50 times since then. One year I read it every season, 4 times a year. But I made a goal to read it at least once a year, and I think I have. Sometimes twice a year, sometimes 1 year, 4 times a year.
What is it about the novel that's particularly affected you?
I think it's a novel about identity, human identity, also whale identity, of course. But there's a line that's not often picked up early on in the novel where we have Ishmael meeting Queequeg for the first time in the chapter A Bosom Friend, and the first thing that Queequeg asks Ishmael as Ishmael tries to get in bed with Queequeg is, "Whoey devil you?" And I think throughout that novel that's an important theme. In other words, who the devil are you is being asked of the reader throughout that novel.
How was Moby Dick received when it was first published in America?
Not very well. His close friend Evert Doikink called it an intellectual chowder in the literary review and accused Melville of a piratical running down of creeds. And Melville had a kind of distant relationship with Doikink ever since. In fact, a year or two later, Doikink asked Melville to submit a daguerreotype, then a photo of himself, for the literary review, and Melville refused, said he didn't want his mug shown in Doikink's newsletter.
How has Moby Dick influenced American literature over
Oh.
the years?
Well, I've been specializing on its influence on the beats, Kerouac in particular, but Ralph Ellison, John Steinbeck, very influenced by Moby Dick. The beats in particular, well, from my perspective, very influenced by Moby Dick. Thomas Pynchon. I would say that from my perspective, American novelists and the contemporary American novelists are still trying to reach the epic proportions of Moby Dick. And in terms of the great American novel, from my perspective, there's no question it's here. So why attempt to write the great American novel? It's already been written by Melville.
What's the best way to approach the novel if you've never read it before?
Probably in the Classics Illustrated cartoon version. I would take it just one step at a time. I know people get perhaps a little bored by the cetology, in other words, the biology of the whale. In fact, there's a chapter entitled Cetology, but that too is very interesting. And Melville is conflating whale nature with human nature all the time, including in the cetological sections. In fact, one of the great chapters, The Whiteness of the Whale, is not about the whiteness of the whale, but the palsied universe that lies before us as nature paints like the harlot, as Melville says. It's very existential in the sense that it's asking the question that Ahab is asking early on in the novel about perhaps how there's nothing behind the pasteboard masks of existence. Perhaps existence is just total blankness, and at the heart of us there's a sense of a pointless center, as Melville says in reference to the whales circling. but again, this sense of pointlessness, of meaninglessness that Melville is asserting in terms of the novel, that perhaps is at the crux of human existence. You know, the emotions perhaps that drive us the most are not those of love and hate, as Hawthorne is asserting in The Scarlet Letter, but that of anxiety as to who we are, what we are, where we are, why we are, these metaphysical questions that Melville is constantly bringing up in Moby Dick. Well, yeah, I mean, since we're in a presidential race and we are at war on two fronts in Afghanistan and Iraq, I just want to point out Melville's prescience in the first chapter. We have here, grand contested election for the presidency of the United States. Small print, whaling voyage by one Ishmael. And here we have bloody battle in Afghanistan in bold letters as Melville introduces these lines. And doubtless my going on this whaling voyage formed part of the grand program of Providence that was drawn up long ago. It came as a sort of brief interlude and solo between more extensive performances. I take it that this part of the bill must have run something like this. And there are their lines. And as he adds Ishmael here in the first chapter, he's playing a shabby part in this whaling voyage. But again, you know, what Melville is saying here in 1851, clearly we are also going through in 2008. And, well, there we go. Here we have why Melville matters now, in terms of the title of a conference I went at the SUNY Albany 2 years ago.
Professor of English Mark Dunphy, thank you for joining us at Lindsey Wilson Conversations.
Why, thank you for the coffee and the sandwich that's over there. Much appreciated.